Welcome to the Limitless interview series. This series is all about interviewing pioneers in their field who are really breaking grounds and transforming the way things are being done and also innovate. I guess for me, it's really refreshing to see people who are go-getters, breaking boundaries and not necessarily converting to the status quo.
I've always wanted to. Why does that work that way? How does that come together? Can I take it apart? Can I put it back together? But also, if I know that, what can I then do with that information? So for me, kind of that was my maths and my tech beginning.
Your mindset, right, in terms of what is achievable. I want to go and do something else for myself. What was the trigger for you?
70 boys, 3 girls. Me, Clarice and Karina. That was it, right? Looking back, before project. Other people took up yoga in 2013. I took up Stemettes.
And I also love...
Hungry, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I also love something that you said in terms of you never realised that you were the only female in the room, let alone the only black female, let alone the only young black female. And it's certainly something that I can also resonate with, having been in working in financial services in a consultancy firm. See that change in their mindset and in their belief. And if so, what do you think are some of the key things that your organization is doing to help them, have that stronger belief in themselves that, yes, actually, if I wanted to, I could run for president, right?
The perception that people have of these technical careers, and we're looking for an improvement. So people then are able to see, like, actually, this isn't about me picking. This is about what can I create? What am I important one? Because I think there's so much conditioning. Imposter syndrome is something people talk about so much, and it's, it's death by 1,000 cuts, it kind of then knock your confidence, and you're like, someone like me, I'm young, black, female from East London, I love Nando's. What can I add to this, right? And so with our events, you have value. Even if you can't do that bit of coding, there's other things that you can do. There's other bits of coding you can do. And so we're able to see a big change in people's confidence, not just in technical things, but in general as a human being. No one's ever told you you've got value. You've got value. There's a lot that you bring. There's a perspective you have that I don't have, and that Oli doesn't have, right? And so it's, you can bring that. It's valuable.
Absolutely. Tell me about some of the challenges. So some of the times which have not been so good, and how have you found your way through some of those tough times? What are some of the things that you can say to them based on some of the challenges that you've had, and how have you dealt with those?
So challenges will always come, and I think it's the kind of thing people have asked me before, Anne-Marie, what's the worst career decision you've ever made? And I always end up saying, do you know what? Unless you end up dead, unless it's, a life and death kind of choice, there's no bad career decision, right? Any mistake you make, you want to be learning from it. Like you don't get success without failure. Like there are several mistakes that are made, but it's about what can you learn from that. And so the advice I often give people, and especially people that be watching this, is, how can you get yourself to see any decision you make, any progress you're going to make, as a series of experiments? Applied for that thing. You went to that place. You did whatever it was you did. Okay, now you come back, you measure. How did that work? What did they say when I did that? What? And you take the lessons that are learned and you feed that into the next place you go to, the next thing you apply for, the next time you speak up and you say something, or the next decision that you're making. And so it means that actually you fail in that experiment, but it was an experiment anyway. The whole point was you fail or you succeed. If you knew what the answer was going to be, it's not really an experiment, is it? And so if you can allow yourself to say, okay, cool, I'm continually experimenting, and just keep taking the learnings with you, keep building, keep learning, go for those mistakes.
It's just really you giving your view on some practical things that the people who are going to be listening to this can do for themselves from tomorrow.
For anyone listening who wants to begin their own career in STEM, in tech, and something technical, firstly is don't do this alone. There are lots of networks, lots of communities that you can plug into. Find your tribe almost, and if it doesn't exist, create one. But it's, you go further when you work together, when you go with others. And so, don't be the only, even if you're the only in your classroom, find the Stemettes Society, find an online network, plug into an organization that reflects who you are and what you believe in. That's kind of number one. Number two is to ensure that you are able to kind of build around you people that can help you. And I think getting a mentor is something that's fantastic to get and to start with. You can ask someone to be a mentor. Getting coaching might be something you're able to do kind of slightly later on in your career. But the magic for me is always the sponsor. And a sponsor isn't someone that pays for things. A sponsor is someone that advocates for you when you're not in the room. So the third one, which is you have to get comfortable being visible. And this is mostly because you can ask someone to be your mentor, but a sponsor needs to see you and kind of be able to seek you out to be able to sponsor and act on your behalf. But it's also because, if we look back at this women thing, and even if we look at the black thing, and even if we look at all the other different things that people have as part of their identity, we've got to this point because we've not told the story of people that have done things. We've not told the stories of so-and-so had that idea and now we have GPS because of Gladys White or Gladys West. Or so-and-so had that idea, now we have Wi-Fi because of Hedy Lamarr. And these are all names that I'm saying that I don't know if you recognise, but you know what GPS is, you know what Wi-Fi is, but we've lost the stories of who did it. And so I think it's really important for you from the beginning of your career, beginning of your journey, to be comfortable sharing your story, sharing your half-baked ideas, and being visible for all that you are. Young, black, female, East London, Nando's, all of it. Be really visible for all that you are, so that then those sponsors can help you out, but also so you're not forgotten. Because that's how we end up in this position. People think women don't do tech, whereas actually the first programmer was a woman. But no one will ever tell you that, right? It's like, okay, how do women not do tech when you had Ada Lovelace? How do women not do tech when you put GPS was Gladys West? Right. We've got Wi-Fi, we've got Bluetooth. Like, there's all these things that the women did tech. We just forgot to tell their stories. Or sometimes we'll even not pretend, but sometimes we'll even say, no. It's not becoming for me as a woman to be all self-promoting. And it's like, no, it's not self-promoting. Tell your story. It needs to be remembered. You're of value. You have worth. Tell your stories and the people around you that can help out. Get comfortable being visible.
I love those. I think I love the last one even most. That was great, and a good one to end on. My very last question for you is: what are you excited about for the next generation? With all the work that has been done over even in the last year alone, compared to the last 10 years and the few decades before that, where we are now, what are you excited about for the people who are coming through Stemettes and for the next generation beyond?
They are starting this with more tools and more awareness of what might come and more of a sense of value in themselves than what we might have had in previous generations. And so what that means is that they're coming into tech and they're coming into engineering, they're coming into these technical things with the kind of attitude of, look, I know the value that I bring to this, and if you're not going to recognize it, that's on you. So I'm really excited that there is a community, they're building together, and whether the tech industry changes or not, they're not going anywhere. So now I'm almost talking to employers like, look, if these girls come to you, you better be ready to treat them well, because they're not going to take any nonsense. And I think that's what I'm most excited about this next generation. And we've seen it on climate change. We've seen it on so many things where it's like, no. They know this is serious and we know this is important. And they're doing what they need to do to solve the problems that exist, because there's lots of problems.
I love that. You're creating the little army already. That's fantastic. Well, look, it's been so good to take the time to speak to you today, get to know you more, and I think the people listening are going to find this hopefully really valuable. So thank you very much for spending the time with us today, and also thank you to everyone listening for this time. See you guys soon. Thank you.